Marcus and Tyler Chen never expected much from the abandoned storage cabin they bought for $300 at a county auction. The brothers were just trying to make rent, hoping to flip whatever junk they found inside for quick cash. But when they pried open the rusted door, they discovered something that would change their lives forever. Buried beneath decades of dust and forgotten belongings was a military-grade chest with locks that seemed far too sophisticated for a simple storage unit. Inside were classified documents dating back to 1952, strange metallic artifacts that defied explanation, and photographs of experiments that officially never happened. The papers referenced something called Project Nightfall and contained coordinates to locations that didn't exist on any what government secret had been hidden in this forgotten storage cabin for over 70 years. And why were unmarked vehicles suddenly watching the brothers' every move? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Back at their cramped apartment, Marcus spread the documents across their kitchen table, while Tyler examined the strange artifacts under a desk lamp. The papers were yellowed with age, stamped with classifications that made Tyler's military training kick in immediately. "Marcus, look at these markings," Tyler said, pointing to a series of symbols in the corner of each document. "I've seen classifications before, but nothing like this. These aren't just top secret. There's something beyond that." Marcus picked up one of the photographs, his hands trembling slightly. The black and white image showed what appeared to be a laboratory with equipment he didn't recognize. In the background, partially obscured figures in white coats worked around a table. What made his stomach turn was the humanoid shape lying motionless on that table, too tall, too thin to be human. "Tyler, what the hell is this?" His brother leaned over, studying the photograph with the analytical eye of someone trained to assess threats. "I don't know, but look at the date stamp. July 1952, and see this letterhead. White Sands Proving Ground." Tyler had heard of White Sands during his army service. It was where they tested experimental weapons, conducted classified research that soldiers weren't supposed to know about. But this looked like something far beyond conventional military experiments. The documents contained names, locations, and technical specifications that read like science fiction. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell appeared repeatedly as the lead researcher, her signature authorizing everything from subject acquisition to consciousness transfer protocols. The clinical language couldn't disguise what they were reading. About experiments on living beings, Marcus found a folder marked Material Analysis containing reports on substances that didn't match any known elements. The scientists described materials that seemed to respond to human thought, metals that generated energy without fuel, and crystalline structures that somehow recorded and played back information. "This has to be fake," Marcus said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Someone's playing an elaborate hoax." Tyler held up one of the metallic artifacts, a smooth, palm-sized object that seemed to shift color in the light. "Feel this, Marcus. It's warm, and I swear it's getting warmer the longer I hold it." Marcus reluctantly took the object. The moment it touched his skin, he felt a strange tingling sensation, almost like a mild electrical current. The artifact's surface began to emit a soft, pulsing light that matched his heartbeat. "That's not possible," he whispered. But the evidence was literally glowing in his hands. They spent hours poring over the documents, piecing together fragments of an incredible story. Project Nightfall had apparently been launched in response to the 1947 Roswell incident, not to investigate a weather balloon, but to study recovered extraterrestrial technology and, horrifyingly, extraterrestrial beings. Dr. Hartwell's notes described initial attempts at communication, followed by increasingly desperate experiments when the captured beings refused to cooperate. The project's goal was to unlock the secrets of alien technology, particularly something called consciousness transfer, the ability to move thoughts and memories between beings. Tyler found references to test subjects, both alien and human volunteers who had undergone experimental procedures. Many of the human subjects were military personnel, soldiers who had volunteered for classified experiments without fully understanding what they were agreeing to. "Marcus, look at this list of names," Tyler said, his voice tight with anger. "These are servicemen who were reported missing in action during the Korean War. But according to these documents, they never went to Korea. They were here being used as test subjects." The implications were staggering. Not only had the government captured and experimented on alien beings, but they had also used their own soldiers as guinea pigs in attempts to replicate alien abilities. Marcus discovered a folder containing correspondence between Dr. Hartwell and her superiors. The early letters showed enthusiasm for the project's potential, but as months passed, her tone grew increasingly troubled. She questioned the ethics of the experiments, expressed concern about the suffering of both alien and human subjects, and finally began to resist orders from her commanding officers. Her final documented communication was a resignation letter that never appeared to have been sent. In it, she threatened to expose the entire project unless the experiments stopped immediately. The letter was dated 3 days before her death in what official records called a laboratory accident. She was going to blow the whistle, Marcus realized, and they killed her for it. Tyler nodded grimly. But not before she hid this evidence. The question is, why here? Why in some random storage unit? As if in answer to his question, Marcus found a handwritten note tucked between the pages of Dr. Hartwell's resignation letter. Written in faded ink, it contained an address that matched the storage facility where they had bought the cabin, along with a simple message: "For those who seek truth when the world is ready." The artifact in Marcus's hand pulsed brighter, as if responding to their growing understanding of its significance. Marcus's laptop screen glowed in the darkened apartment as he typed "Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell" into the search engine. Tyler sat beside him, still holding the warm artifact, watching his brother navigate through decades-old government records and archived newspaper articles. The official story was simple and sanitized. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, 34, died in a laboratory accident at White Sands Proving Ground on October 15, 1953. The brief obituary mentioned her work in materials research and noted that she had no surviving family. Case closed, file buried, woman forgotten. But Marcus had learned to read between the lines during his years as a freelance journalist before money troubles forced him into odd jobs and storage unit auctions. He dug deeper, following breadcrumbs through academic journals, military personnel records, and newspaper archives from small New Mexico towns. "Look at this," Marcus said, pointing to a scanned newspaper clipping from the Alamogordo Daily News. 3 days before her official death, Dr. Hartwell was seen at the local bank, renting a safety deposit box. The bank manager mentioned it to a reporter because she seemed unusually agitated and insisted on handling the transaction personally. Tyler leaned closer to read the article. She was preparing for something, making sure evidence would survive even if she didn't. Marcus continued scrolling through search results when Tyler suddenly grabbed his arm. "Marcus, check the chest again. Feel around the bottom, the sides." If Dr. Hartwell was smart enough to hide evidence in a storage unit, she might have been smart enough to hide more evidence inside the evidence. Together, they carried the military chest to the kitchen table and examined it under better lighting. Tyler's trained fingers found what Marcus had missed: barely visible seams along the bottom panel. Using a kitchen knife, they carefully pried open a hidden compartment. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages filled with Dr. Hartwell's handwriting. The entries began optimistically, describing her excitement at being selected for the most important scientific project in human history. But as the brothers read through the months of entries, they watched her enthusiasm transform into horror. June 12, 1952, first direct contact with recovered subjects today. They are clearly intelligent, possibly more so than us. Their attempts at communication are sophisticated, mathematical in nature. I believe they are trying to teach us rather than hide from us. Tyler flipped ahead several pages. July 20th, 1952. General Morrison has ordered more aggressive interrogation techniques. I have argued that the subjects appear willing to cooperate if treated with respect, but my recommendations are being ignored. The beings show signs of distress that any reasonable person would recognize as suffering. Marcus found an entry that made his blood run cold. August 3rd, 1952. They brought in the first human volunteers today. Soldiers who were told they would be participating in advanced communication experiments. None of them understand what we're really attempting. The consciousness transfer experiments on the alien subjects have shown promising results, but at a terrible cost. Colonel Hayes wants to see if the process works in reverse, if we can transfer human consciousness into alien subjects. The journal documented Dr. Hartwell's growing realization that she was participating in torture and murder, disguised as scientific research. The alien beings, whom she began referring to as visitors rather than subjects, were dying one by one as scientists attempted to extract and duplicate their consciousness. September 18th, 1952. Lost. Another visitor today during the transfer attempt. The human volunteer, Private James Peterson, suffered what appears to be complete personality dissolution. He no longer responds to his name or recognizes his own reflection. Whatever we're doing, we're destroying both species in the process. But the most disturbing entries came from September and October 1953, when Dr. Hartwell discovered the true purpose of Project Nightfall. The goal wasn't just to understand alien technology, it was to create human-alien hybrid consciousness that could be controlled by the military. October 1st, 1953. General Morrison revealed the endgame today. They want to create soldiers with alien abilities but human loyalty, beings they can control completely. The visitors didn't come here to invade us. They came to help us, to share technology that could solve our energy crisis, cure diseases, prevent wars. And we've responded by torturing them to death and using their dying thoughts to create weapons. The final entries showed Dr. Hartwell's desperate attempts to preserve evidence and protect the surviving visitors. She had managed to help 2 of the beings escape, hiding them in a facility she didn't name. More importantly, she had created detailed records of the entire project, including film footage of the experiments and communications from the visitors themselves. October 12th, 1953. I've secured everything they need to understand what really happened here. The storage location is prepared, the evidence is preserved, and I've left instructions for when humanity is ready to face the truth. If they kill me for this, at least someone will eventually know that we had a chance for peace and threw it away for weapons. The journal's final entry was a single line. They're coming for me tonight. I hope someone finds this and makes better choices than we did. Tyler closed the journal carefully, his hands shaking slightly. She saved this for us, Marcus. She died so that someday someone would know the truth. Marcus stared at the artifacts scattered across their table, understanding finally that they weren't just valuable antiques or historical curiosities. They were evidence of humanity's first contact with another intelligent species, and proof of the greatest cover-up in human history. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly in all directions as Marcus drove their borrowed pickup truck down a dirt road that barely deserved the name. Tyler navigated using the coordinates from Dr. Hartwell's documents, checking their GPS against the handwritten notes she had left behind. 2 more miles, Tyler said, squinting at the horizon. Should be just past that ridge. They had driven through the night, leaving Los Angeles before dawn to avoid any surveillance that might have been watching their apartment. The desert was empty, except for scattered Joshua trees and the occasional jackrabbit darting across their path. The coordinates led them to what appeared to be an abandoned mining operation. Rusted equipment sat scattered around a collection of weathered buildings, and a faded sign warned about unstable mine shafts. But Tyler's trained eye noticed details that didn't fit the mining story. Power lines that were too modern, security cameras that looked recently installed, and tire tracks too fresh for an abandoned site. "This isn't abandoned," Tyler murmured as they parked behind a cluster of boulders. "Someone's been maintaining this place." They approached on foot, moving carefully between the old mining structures. Marcus carried a backpack with the most important documents, while Tyler kept the strange artifacts that had grown warm during their journey, as if responding to their proximity to this place, behind the main building, partially hidden by desert scrub. They found what they were looking for, a concrete structure built into the hillside, disguised to look like another mine entrance. But the heavy steel door and electronic lock system revealed its true nature. Tyler examined the lock mechanism, then pulled out one of the crystalline artifacts from Dr. Hartwell's collection. The moment he brought it near the electronic panel, the device began to glow and emit a soft humming sound. The lock clicked open. "That's not possible," Marcus whispered, but the door was already swinging inward, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. They found working light switches inside, and fluorescent bulbs flickered to life, illuminating a preserved piece of 1950s America. The underground facility stretched much deeper than they had expected, with multiple levels connected by metal staircases and corridors lined with rooms that still contained their original equipment. The first level appeared to be administrative offices, with desks and filing cabinets left exactly as they had been 70 years ago. Papers were scattered across surfaces as if the occupants had left in a hurry. Tyler found personnel rosters showing dozens of scientists, military officers, and support staff who had worked at the facility. But it was the second level that took their breath away. They emerged into a vast laboratory space filled with equipment that looked decades ahead of 1950s technology. Examination tables with restraint systems sat beneath arrays of instruments that neither brother could identify. Along one wall, a series of chambers with thick glass windows stood empty, their purposes unclear but ominous. Marcus found himself drawn to a collection of photographs pinned to a bulletin board. Unlike the clinical images they had seen in the documents, these were personal snapshots, scientists celebrating what appeared to be successful experiments, military officers shaking hands with men in suits, and disturbing images of beings that were clearly not human lying motionless on examination tables. Tyler was exploring the equipment when he picked up a small, pyramid-shaped device from one of the laboratory benches. The moment his fingers made contact, the artifact began to glow with an intensity that lit up the entire room. But more shocking was what happened to Marcus. "Tyler!" Marcus gasped, stumbling backward from the bulletin board. "I can see them. I can see what happened here." Images flashed through Marcus's mind like a movie playing at high speed. He saw the laboratory, as it had been in 1952, filled with scientists and military personnel. He watched as alien beings were brought in on stretchers, their large eyes filled with what could only be described as sadness rather than fear. He witnessed Dr. Hartwell arguing with a general, her voice echoing strangely in his head as she pleaded for more humane treatment of the visitors. But most disturbing were the flashes of the consciousness transfer experiments themselves. Marcus saw human soldiers strapped to tables as doctors attempted to implant alien memories into their minds. He watched as the procedure drove most subjects insane, their human consciousness unable to process the alien thoughts and experiences being forced into their brains. "The device," Tyler said, still holding the glowing pyramid. "It's some kind of recording system. It's showing you the memories stored in this place." Marcus saw the final days of the facility when Dr. Hartwell had helped the surviving visitors escape through service tunnels that led deep into the desert. He witnessed her final confrontation with General Morrison, when she threatened to expose the entire project unless it was shut down immediately, And then the vision shifted to something that made both brothers freeze. Recent images, not from the 1950s but from just weeks ago. Men in black suits walking through the facility, examining the equipment, searching through the remaining documents. The same men who had been watching their apartment. "We're not the first ones to find this place," Marcus said, his voice barely a whisper. "They know we're here." Tyler carefully set down the pyramid device, but its glow continued to pulse rhythmically, like a beacon broadcasting their location to anyone who might be monitoring it. In the distance, they heard the sound of vehicles approaching across the desert. "We need to go," Tyler said, grabbing his brother's arm. "But first, we need to take everything we can carry. This might be our only chance to get the complete evidence." They quickly gathered handfuls of documents, photographs, and the smaller artifacts, stuffing everything into Marcus's backpack. As they climbed back toward the surface, the sound of approaching vehicles grew louder, accompanied now by the distinctive whoop of helicopter rotors. The last thing they saw before fleeing into the desert was a convoy of black SUVs surrounding their hiding place, disgorging men in tactical gear who moved with military precision toward the facility entrance. They arrived back at their Los Angeles apartment just after midnight, exhausted from the 8-hour drive through desert backroads to avoid highway surveillance. Marcus fumbled with his keys while Tyler scanned the street for anything unusual. Too many parked cars, lights in windows that should be dark, the feeling of being watched that his military training had taught him to trust. The moment they opened the door, they knew someone had been inside. The apartment looked almost exactly as they had left it. But Tyler's paranoid habits from overseas deployments had taught him to set subtle markers. A book positioned at a specific angle, a glass placed precisely on a coaster, a towel folded in a particular way. Every marker had been disturbed. "Professional job," Tyler whispered, running his fingers along the edge of their kitchen table. "They tried to put everything back, but they were in a hurry." Marcus checked his laptop. The screensaver was different from what he remembered, and when he opened his browser history, he found searches he had never conducted. Inquiries about the Chen brothers' financial records, employment history and military service records. "They know everything about us," Marcus said, his voice tight with anxiety. Tyler was examining the living room when he found the first camera, a device smaller than a thumbnail, attached to the underside of their coffee table. Within minutes, he had located 6 more surveillance devices hidden throughout the apartment, along with what appeared to be a cell phone signal booster that was probably designed to intercept their communications. But it was Marcus who found the envelope that had been left deliberately visible on his pillow, as if their visitors wanted to ensure it wouldn't be missed. Inside were photographs, high-resolution surveillance images taken over the past week. The brothers leaving their apartment, shopping for supplies before their desert trip, arriving at the storage auction where they had bought the cabin, and most disturbing of all, images of them entering and leaving the underground facility just hours ago. The photographs were accompanied by a single sheet of paper with a simple message typed in block letters. "Return what you found or face the consequences. You have 48 hours." Tyler studied the surveillance photos with professional interest, noting the angles and distances that suggested multiple teams working in coordination. "These aren't government agents," he said finally, "at least not official ones. Government surveillance teams would have arrested us already. These are private contractors, which means someone with serious money is very interested in what we found." Marcus discovered that their phone line had been tapped when he noticed the subtle echo and delay that indicated monitoring equipment. Their internet connection was also compromised, with data packets being redirected through servers they didn't recognize. "We can't stay here," Marcus said. But Tyler was already shaking his head. "We can't run either. Look at these photos. They've been watching us for days, maybe weeks. They know our routines, our friends, our families. Running just makes us easier targets." Tyler contacted his former military buddies through encrypted messaging apps, carefully probing for information about Black Ops surveillance techniques and private military contractors. The responses were disturbing. Several friends warned him about recent inquiries into his service record and security clearance. Status, someone's been asking questions. About you, came one message from a former Army Ranger. Official channels, but not official people, if you know what I mean. Whatever you've stumbled into, it's bigger than military intelligence. Marcus tried to research the surveillance equipment they had found, but every internet search seemed to trigger additional monitoring. Pop-up ads began appearing for security companies and private investigation services, as if their searches were being tracked and their interests analyzed in real time. The final straw came when Tyler discovered a GPS tracking device attached to the undercarriage of their borrowed pickup truck. The device was military-grade, designed to transmit location data continuously to remote monitoring stations. They want us to know we're being watched, Tyler realized. This isn't subtle surveillance, it's psychological pressure. They're trying to scare us into compliance. But Marcus had found something that changed everything. Hidden among the surveillance photos was an image that their watchers probably hadn't intended to include, a reflection in a car window showing the face of the photographer. Marcus recognized the man from his research into Project Nightfall, Dr. Richard Morrison, listed in the facility personnel records as the son of General Morrison, the officer who had ordered Dr. Hartwell's death. It's not just about the artifacts, Marcus said, showing Tyler the photograph. It's about family legacy. The people who covered up Project Nightfall have children and grandchildren who are still protecting those secrets. Tyler examined the image more closely, noting the expensive equipment and professional setup visible in the reflection. This explains the private contractors and unlimited resources. We're not just fighting government bureaucracy, we're fighting people who have built their entire lives on keeping this secret buried. The realization changed their situation from dangerous to potentially deadly. They weren't dealing with officials who might arrest them or confiscate evidence. They were facing people who had already committed murder to protect these secrets and would have no hesitation about doing it again. As if to emphasize the point, their apartment building's fire alarm began ringing at exactly 3 a.m., forcing all residents to evacuate into the street. As they stood among their neighbors, Marcus noticed the black SUVs positioned at both ends of the block, their occupants watching through tinted windows as everyone filed out of the building. Intimidation tactic, Tyler murmured. They want us to understand that they can reach us anywhere, anytime. But they had underestimated the Chen brothers' determination. Instead of being intimidated, Marcus and Tyler began planning their next move, a plan that would force their watchers out of the shadows and into the light. Marcus sat cross-legged on their apartment floor, studying the largest of the crystalline artifacts by lamplight, while Tyler maintained watch at the window. The surveillance teams had maintained their positions throughout the night, but hadn't made any aggressive moves beyond their obvious presence. The artifact was roughly the size of a softball, with a smooth, translucent surface that seemed to shift between different colors depending on the angle of observation. What fascinated Marcus was how it had grown progressively warmer during their time in the underground facility, and how it now pulsed with a gentle internal light that matched his heartbeat. "Try focusing on it," Tyler suggested quietly, keeping his voice low in case their apartment was equipped with listening devices they hadn't found. "The way you did when you touched that pyramid device. Maybe this one works differently." Marcus placed both hands on the crystal and concentrated, trying to clear his mind of distractions. At first, nothing happened except for the familiar warmth spreading through his palms. But gradually, he became aware of something else, a subtle vibration, almost like music played at frequencies just below human hearing. Then the crystal began to project. Holographic symbols appeared in the air above the artifact, three-dimensional characters that rotated slowly in space. The symbols bore some resemblance to the markings they had seen in Dr. Hartwell's documents, but these were more complex, layered with mathematical relationships that Marcus's trained eye began to recognize. "It's not just writing," Marcus whispered in amazement. "It's a programming language. Each symbol represents multiple concepts simultaneously, mathematical equations, chemical formulas, and something else I can't quite identify. Tyler moved closer, studying the floating symbols with the tactical assessment skills that had kept him alive during 3 combat deployments. It's responding to your thoughts, Marcus. When you concentrate on different symbols, they get brighter. Marcus experimented, focusing his attention on individual characters. As Tyler had observed, the symbols brightened when he concentrated on them, and something extraordinary began to happen. The holographic display started showing him images, not the traumatic laboratory scenes he had witnessed through the pyramid device, but something entirely different. He saw a spacecraft, sleek and organic-looking, approaching Earth's atmosphere in what appeared to be 1947. But instead of the hostile invasion that popular culture had imagined, the ship's occupants were broadcasting peaceful intentions in mathematical languages that human scientists of the era should have been able to understand. The beings inside the craft, tall, slender figures with large eyes that conveyed intelligence and compassion rather than menace, had come to Earth specifically to help humanity navigate what they recognized as a critical period in human development. They had watched human civilization develop nuclear weapons and were concerned about humanity's potential for self-destruction. "They were trying to help us," Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder as he watched the holographic story unfold. "They brought technology that could have solved our energy crisis, eliminated pollution, even provided cures for diseases. They wanted to share it freely." The crystal showed him the first contact scenario as it had actually unfolded. The alien visitors had landed openly in the New Mexico desert, broadcasting their peaceful intentions and requesting communication with human leaders. They had even shared some of their simpler technologies as gestures of goodwill. But instead of embracing the opportunity for peaceful contact, the human military response had been capture and confinement. The crystal showed Marcus the terrible transition from first contact to imprisonment, as fear and paranoia overcame curiosity and hope. Tyler watched his brother's face as the holographic display continued, showing scenes that made both men understand the true scope of what had been lost. The alien visitors had possessed technology that could have prevented climate change, eliminated poverty, and opened peaceful pathways to the stars. Instead, humanity had chosen to torture and kill them in pursuit of weapons. "The consciousness transfer experiments," Marcus said, as the crystal revealed new details about Project Nightfall. "They weren't trying to steal alien technology. They were trying to force the aliens to share it through torture. And when that didn't work, they started trying to extract the information directly from their minds." The holographic display showed Dr. Hartwell's growing horror as she realized what her research was really being used for. The aliens had been trying to communicate, to teach, to share their knowledge freely. But each consciousness transfer experiment killed them slowly, destroying not just individual beings, but the accumulated knowledge of an entire civilization. But the most shocking revelation came when the crystal showed Marcus what had happened to the aliens who had escaped with Dr. Hartwell's help. They hadn't fled Earth. They had hidden, waiting for humanity to evolve beyond the fear and violence that had characterized first contact. "They're still here," Marcus breathed, watching as the holographic display showed a hidden facility deep in the Earth, where surviving aliens had preserved their technology and knowledge, waiting for us to prove we're ready for peaceful contact. The crystal revealed coordinates, not to the underground facility they had already discovered, but to a new location where the surviving aliens maintained a secret base. More importantly, it showed communication protocols, ways that humans could signal their readiness for renewed contact. Tyler studied the coordinates with growing excitement. "Marcus, this isn't just evidence of what happened 70 years ago. This is a roadmap for making contact with beings who are still alive, still willing to help us." But as the holographic display faded and the crystal returned to its dormant state, Both brothers understood the magnitude of what they had discovered. The crystalline artifact wasn't just a historical record. It was a communication device designed to activate when humanity was finally ready to face the truth about first contact. The question now was whether they were brave enough to use it, knowing that doing so would make them the most hunted people on Earth. The morning sun filtered through their apartment's dirty windows as Marcus and Tyler sat on opposite sides of their kitchen table. The alien communication device positioned between them like a judge waiting to hear their verdict. Neither brother had slept after the previous night's revelations, and the weight of their decision pressed down on them with almost physical force. "We could disappear," Tyler said quietly, his military pragmatism warring with something deeper. "Take the artifacts, get out of Los Angeles. Find somewhere remote to lay low until this blows over." Marcus shook his head, still staring at the crystalline device that had shown them humanity's lost opportunity for peaceful alien contact. "This won't blow over, Tyler. People like Dr. Morrison have been covering this up for 70 years. They'll keep covering it up for 70 more unless someone forces the truth into the open. And what makes you think we're the ones to do it? We're nobody, Marcus. A failed journalist and an ex-soldier who can barely make rent. Nobody's going to believe us." "That's exactly why we have to try," Marcus said, finally looking up to meet his brother's eyes. "Don't you see? We're not government officials or scientists or politicians. We don't have careers to protect or security clearances to maintain. We're the only ones who can tell this story without worrying about losing everything." Tyler gestured toward the window, where they could see the black SUVs maintaining their surveillance positions. "We might lose everything anyway, including our lives." Marcus reached for the communication device, feeling its familiar warmth spread through his palms. "Tyler, do you remember when we were kids and Dad used to tell us stories about the civil rights movement? About ordinary people who risked everything to do what was right? This isn't the same thing, isn't it? 70 years ago, humans had the chance to join a galactic community, to solve our biggest problems with help from beings who had evolved beyond war and environmental destruction. Instead, we chose fear and violence. We tortured and killed the first alien ambassadors ever to visit Earth." Tyler was quiet for a long moment, studying the device with the same intensity he had once used to assess enemy positions. "If we do this, there's no going back. Once we activate that thing and make contact, we become the most wanted people on the planet." "We're already the most wanted people on the planet," Marcus pointed out. "The difference is whether we go down fighting or go down hiding." As if summoned by their conversation, the communication device began to pulse with increased intensity. Marcus realized it was responding to their emotional state, growing brighter as their determination strengthened. The artifact seemed to be waiting for their decision, ready to initiate contact the moment they committed to action. Tyler stood up and walked to the window, studying the surveillance teams with professional interest. 6 vehicles visible from here, probably more positioned around the building. Professional contractors, well-equipped, but not infinite resources. If we're going to do this, we need to create a distraction that gives us enough time to complete the transmission. "You're thinking like a soldier," Marcus said with growing hope. "Does that mean you're in?" "I'm thinking about what Dad would say if he were here. He always told us that some fights are worth having even when you can't win them." Tyler turned back to face his brother. "But we're not just fighting for ourselves, are we? We're fighting for every human being who deserves to know the truth about first contact." Marcus activated the device, watching as holographic symbols once again filled the air above their kitchen table. But this time, instead of showing them recorded history, the symbols formed what appeared to be an interface, a communication system waiting for their input. "It's asking for confirmation," Marcus said, interpreting the mathematical relationships displayed in the holographic symbols. "It wants to know if we're ready to initiate contact with the surviving aliens." Tyler sat back down, his decision made. "What exactly happens when we say yes?" "According to the interface, it will broadcast our location and a peaceful contact request to the hidden alien base. If they agree to meet with us, they'll send representatives. But Marcus, Tyler paused, studying the symbols more carefully. It's also going to broadcast our signal globally. Every government monitoring system on Earth will detect this transmission. Good, Marcus said firmly. Let them detect it. Once this goes public, Dr. Morrison and his people can't cover it up anymore. The device was waiting for their final input, a simple confirmation that would change everything. Marcus placed his hand on the crystal surface, feeling the warmth that had become familiar over the past few days. Tyler placed his hand beside his brother's. Together? Marcus asked. Together, Tyler confirmed. They pressed down simultaneously, and the crystalline device erupted with light that filled their entire apartment. The holographic symbols spun faster, forming complex patterns that neither brother could interpret, but both somehow understood as a message of peaceful intention being broadcast across the planet. In the distance, they could hear car doors slamming as the surveillance teams reacted to whatever their monitoring equipment was detecting. But Marcus and Tyler remained focused on the device, watching as it confirmed successful transmission of their contact request. The response came faster than they had expected, new symbols forming in the holographic display, indicating that the surviving aliens had received their message and agreed to make contact. Coordinates appeared, showing a location in the Mojave Desert where first contact would take place in exactly 24 hours. They're coming, Marcus whispered in amazement. So are Morrison's people, Tyler replied, already moving toward their emergency supplies. But at least now everyone will know why. The chase began the moment they stepped out of their apartment building's back exit. Tyler had mapped 3 different escape routes during their weeks of surveillance, and he led Marcus through a maze of alleys and parking garages designed to break visual contact with their pursuers. Behind them, they could hear the coordinated response of the surveillance teams, radio chatter, car engines roaring to life, and the distinctive sound of helicopter rotors approaching from the east. The alien transmission had triggered every monitoring system within a 50-mile radius, and Dr. Morrison's people were responding with overwhelming force. This way, Tyler whispered, pulling Marcus into a drainage tunnel that ran beneath the city's commercial district. The tunnel was dark and narrow, but it would conceal them from aerial surveillance. While they made their way toward the first checkpoint in Tyler's escape plan, they emerged 15 minutes later near a storage facility where Tyler had hidden emergency supplies in a rented unit months earlier. Inside the unit, wrapped in waterproof containers, were new identification documents, cash, weapons, and most importantly, a safety deposit box key that Tyler had never mentioned to his brother. Tyler, what is this? Marcus asked, examining the professionally forged driver's license that bore his photo but a different name. Insurance, Tyler replied, quickly gathering the supplies they would need for the next phase of their journey. I've been preparing for the possibility that we might need to disappear completely. The safety deposit box contains something that changes everything. The bank was only 6 blocks away, but those blocks felt like miles as they moved through a city that had suddenly become hostile territory. Every police car, every security camera, every pedestrian with a cell phone represented a potential threat. Tyler's military training kept them moving efficiently through blind spots and safe routes. But Marcus could feel the net closing around them. At the bank, Tyler's false identification held up under scrutiny, and they were escorted to the safety deposit box area by a clerk who seemed more interested in her lunch break than the 2 nervous men accessing box 1247. Inside the box was a collection of items that made Marcus stare in amazement. Tyler had been busy during their weeks of investigation, creating a comprehensive backup plan that included copies of all the most important documents from Dr. Hartwell's collection, photographs of the underground facility, and most shocking of all, video recordings of their experiments with the alien artifacts. You've been documenting everything, Marcus realized. More than that, Tyler said, producing a data storage device that looked far more sophisticated than anything they should have been able to afford. I've been in contact with people who specialize in exposing government cover-ups. Journalists, hackers, international human rights organizations. If something happens to us, this information gets released automatically. But the most important item in the safety deposit box was something Tyler called the insurance policy, a complete digital archive of Dr. Hartwell's hidden research cache, recovered from a second safety deposit box that her journal had referenced. I found her original cache 3 days ago, Tyler explained, as they downloaded the files onto encrypted drives. Everything she wanted preserved is here. Film footage of the experiments, audio recordings of alien communications, complete documentation of the consciousness transfer procedures, and most importantly, the full records of how many government officials were involved in the cover-up. The files contained evidence that implicated 3 generations of military and political leaders in maintaining the project. Nightfall secrecy. Names, dates, financial records, and communication logs that proved the cover-up had continued long after Dr. Hartwell's death, evolving into a shadow organization dedicated to suppressing any evidence of alien contact. Marcus scrolled through the files on Tyler's laptop, his amazement growing with each revelation. This isn't just about what happened in the 1950s. It's about ongoing operations, current personnel, active suppression of UFO research and alien contact attempts. Dr. Morrison's father wasn't just a general who ordered Dr. Hartwell's death, Tyler confirmed. He founded an entire organization dedicated to ensuring that humanity never learns the truth about alien contact. And that organization has been operating continuously for 70 years. The archive also contained something that made both brothers understand the true scope of what they were fighting against, evidence that other alien contact attempts had occurred since the 1950s, and all had been similarly suppressed through violence and intimidation. We're not the first people to discover this truth, Marcus said, reading through reports of researchers, journalists, and government whistleblowers who had tried to expose alien contact evidence over the decades. And we won't be the last, unless we succeed in making this information impossible to suppress. Tyler had created multiple distribution networks for the archive, with copies scheduled for automatic release to major news organizations, government oversight committees, and international human rights groups if he and Marcus failed to check in at regular intervals. The dead man's switch is already active, Tyler explained. If we don't confirm our safety every 12 hours, everything gets released simultaneously. Morrison's people can kill us, but they can't stop the truth anymore. As they prepared to leave the bank, Tyler handed Marcus a final item from the safety deposit box, a communication device identical to the one they had used to contact the aliens, but modified with additional capabilities. This one can do more than just send peaceful contact requests, Tyler said. It can also broadcast the evidence archive directly to global communication networks, bypassing government censorship and reaching every internet-connected device on the planet simultaneously. Marcus understood immediately. They weren't just planning to meet with surviving aliens, they were planning to force full disclosure of humanity's first contact history, whether or not the aliens chose to reveal themselves publicly. "Ready?" Tyler asked as sirens approached the bank from multiple directions. "Ready," Marcus confirmed, clutching the modified communication device that would either liberate humanity from 70 years of deception or get them both killed in the attempt. Marcus crouched behind the concrete barrier of the abandoned radio tower, sweat dripping down his face as he worked to connect the modified communication device to the facility's transmission equipment. Below in the valley, he could see the headlights of approaching vehicles, Dr. Morrison's teams converging on their location with military precision. Tyler maintained overwatch from a position 50 yards away, his military training allowing him to coordinate their defensive positions while providing security for Marcus's desperate attempt to complete the global broadcast. They had perhaps 10 minutes before the assault teams reached their position. "The interface is online," Marcus called out, watching as the alien device synchronized with the radio tower's powerful transmission array. The crystalline surface began to pulse with increased intensity, and holographic symbols filled the air around the equipment, forming complex patterns that seemed to reach toward the sky. The master control interface was unlike anything they had encountered before, a fusion of alien technology and human engineering that Dr. Hartwell had designed as her ultimate failsafe. Hidden for 70 years in her secondary research cache, the device was capable of hijacking global communication networks and broadcasting simultaneously to every satellite, cell tower and internet connection on Earth. "Beginning transmission," Marcus announced, activating the archive upload sequence. Immediately, the device began converting Dr. Hartwell's comprehensive files into a signal format that could penetrate any security system or censorship protocol. Around the world, the broadcast began appearing on television screens, computer monitors, and mobile devices. The carefully documented evidence of Project Nightfall started streaming directly to news organizations, government officials, military commanders, and ordinary citizens who suddenly found themselves witnessing the most significant revelation in human history. The first wave of data included Dr. Hartwell's original film footage of the alien visitors. Clear, undeniable evidence of intelligent extraterrestrial beings communicating peacefully with human scientists. The beings' attempts at mathematical communication were obvious, even to untrained observers. Their gestures of goodwill unmistakable despite the decades-old black-and-white imagery. But it was the second wave of evidence that triggered global outrage. The footage of consciousness transfer experiments, showing alien beings restrained on examination tables, while human scientists attempted to extract their memories through procedures that were clearly torture, created an immediate international incident. Marcus watched the upload progress on the device's holographic display, seeing real-time confirmation that the broadcast was reaching its intended targets. News organizations were already interrupting regular programming to show the footage. Government communication systems were being flooded with demands for explanations. Social media platforms were exploding with discussions of the evidence that was impossible to dismiss or debunk. 60% upload complete, Marcus reported to Tyler, who was tracking the approaching assault teams through night vision scopes. "They're moving faster than expected," Tyler replied. "We've got maybe 5 minutes before they're in firing position." The third wave of evidence focused on the cover-up itself. 70 years of documents showing how Project Nightfall had evolved into a shadow organization dedicated to suppressing alien contact evidence. Financial records, personnel files, and communication logs implicated dozens of high-ranking officials in an ongoing conspiracy that had cost taxpayers billions of dollars and potentially cost humanity its best chance for peaceful technological advancement. But the most shocking revelation was the evidence of ongoing alien contact attempts. The archive contained documentation of at least 12 separate incidents since 1953, where extraterrestrial beings had attempted to re-establish communication with Earth, only to be met with violence and suppression by Morrison's organization. 80% complete, Marcus announced, watching as the holographic interface confirmed successful penetration of military communication networks worldwide. Pentagon officials were receiving the evidence simultaneously with their counterparts in Moscow, Beijing, London, and every other major government center. The device was also broadcasting the coordinates for the planned meeting with surviving aliens, scheduled to take place in just 8 hours at a location in the Mojave Desert. The message was clear. If world leaders wanted to witness humanity's second chance at first contact, they would need to ensure that the meeting took place without interference from Morrison's shadow organization. Tyler's voice crackled over their radio communication. "Movement on the South Ridge. Sniper teams in position." "They're not planning to take us alive, Marcus. 95% complete," Marcus responded, his hands shaking as he made final adjustments to the transmission array. The alien device was pushing the human equipment far beyond its designed capabilities, but the broadcast signal was holding steady around the world. The reaction to the evidence was immediate and overwhelming. Government switchboards were being flooded with calls demanding explanations. Military commanders were receiving orders to stand down any operations related to alien contact suppression. International human rights organizations were calling for immediate investigations into the documented torture and murder of extraterrestrial beings. "Upload complete," Marcus announced, just as the first sniper rounds began impacting the concrete around their position. The entire archive is now public record. But the device wasn't finished. In its final act, the master control interface activated a hidden protocol that Dr. Hartwell had embedded in its programming. A direct communication link with the surviving alien base, broadcasting humanity's apology for 70 years of violence and fear, along with a formal request for renewed peaceful contact. The response came immediately, displayed in holographic symbols that both brothers could now read. Message received. Forgiveness granted. Contact will proceed as scheduled. Humanity's courage in revealing truth demonstrates readiness for peaceful cooperation. Tyler fired covering shots as Marcus disconnected the device and prepared for their final escape. They had done it. The truth was out. The aliens had confirmed their willingness to meet. And no amount of violence from Morrison's people could put the secret back in the box. As they disappeared into the desert darkness, leaving behind the abandoned radio tower and the approaching assault teams, both brothers understood that they had just participated in the most important moment in human history since the invention of language. 6 hours after the global broadcast, Marcus and Tyler watched the world transform from their hidden position in an abandoned gas station 30 miles from the planned contact site. Tyler had rigged a satellite communication array that allowed them to monitor international news feeds, government communications, and social media responses to the revelation of humanity's true first contact history. The reaction was unlike anything either brother had imagined possible. In Washington, D.C., emergency sessions of Congress were being called as representatives demanded immediate investigations into Project Nightfall and the shadow organization that had maintained the cover-up. The Pentagon had gone into full crisis mode, with senior officials publicly distancing themselves from any knowledge of alien contact. Suppression while privately scrambling to assess the damage to national security operations. Similar scenes were playing out in capitals around the world. The British Parliament had suspended regular business to address questions about UK involvement in the cover-up. The United Nations Security Council had called an emergency session to discuss the implications of confirmed extraterrestrial contact and the documented torture of alien visitors, but it was the public reaction that truly demonstrated how completely the world had changed overnight. Instead of panic or denial, the predominant response was outrage at having been lied to for 70 years, combined with overwhelming support for peaceful contact. With the surviving aliens, Marcus held up the Alien Peace Treaty, the original document that Dr. Hartwell had preserved, showing the intended cooperation agreement between humans and extraterrestrials. The treaty outlined technology transfers that could have solved climate change, eliminated energy scarcity, and provided cures for major diseases decades ago. "Look at this provision," Marcus said, pointing to a section of the treaty written in both alien symbols and English translation. They were offering to help us develop fusion power, clean water purification, and medical technologies that could eliminate cancer and genetic diseases. We could have had all of this in the 1950s. Tyler monitored military communications on his equipment, noting the chaos that was spreading through command structures worldwide. "Dr. Morrison's organization is in full retreat," he reported. I'm intercepting emergency communications, ordering the destruction of classified files and the evacuation of personnel from hidden facilities. The peace treaty contained detailed technical specifications for technologies that were decades ahead of current human capabilities. Fusion reactors that produced no radioactive waste, atmospheric processes that could reverse pollution damage, and medical devices that could repair genetic defects at the cellular level. The aliens had been prepared to share all of it freely, asking only for peaceful cooperation and cultural exchange in return. But perhaps most importantly, the treaty revealed that the alien visitors had specifically chosen Earth because they recognized humanity's potential for growth beyond violence and fear. The document contained assessments of human creativity, adaptability, and capacity for compassion that painted a surprisingly optimistic picture of human nature. They saw something in us that we didn't see in ourselves, Marcus realized, reading through the aliens' cultural analysis of 1940s humanity. Even after we captured and tortured them, they still believed we could evolve beyond our worst impulses. International pressure was mounting for the immediate arrest of Dr. Morrison and his collaborators. European Union officials had issued warrants for the extradition of American personnel involved in the cover-up. Human rights organizations were demanding access to any remaining evidence of alien contact suppression. Tyler's monitoring equipment picked up a transmission that made both brothers freeze with surprise. Dr. Morrison himself was attempting to contact them directly, using communication frequencies that suggested he had been tracking their location despite their precautions. Chen brothers, this is Dr. Richard Morrison. I know you can hear this transmission. I'm requesting immediate communication to discuss terms for peaceful resolution of this situation. Marcus looked at Tyler in amazement. He's trying to negotiate? More likely trying to locate us for one final strike, Tyler replied. But he adjusted their communication array to respond to Morrison's signal. Dr. Morrison, this is Marcus Chen. We're listening, but we're not interested in any deals that involve continuing the cover-up. Morrison's voice came through clearly, though he sounded exhausted and defeated. Mr. Chen, the cover-up is over. Your broadcast has made continuation impossible. I'm contacting you because there are aspects of this situation that you don't understand, dangers that my organization has been protecting humanity from. What dangers? Tyler interjected. The aliens came here peacefully. Your father's generation chose violence. Not all of them came peacefully, Morrison replied. The beings your Dr. Hartwell helped escape were part of a faction that genuinely wanted peaceful contact. But there were others who saw humanity as a threat to be eliminated or a resource to be exploited. My organization hasn't just been covering up alien contact. We've been fighting a secret war to protect Earth from hostile extraterrestrial forces. The revelation hit both brothers like a physical blow. The peace treaty in Marcus's hands suddenly seemed more complicated, representing not universal alien intentions, but the desires of a specific faction that had been trying to protect humanity from their own hostile relatives. The contact scheduled for today, Morrison continued, involves the peaceful faction. They've been hiding on Earth for 70 years, waiting for humanity to demonstrate readiness for cooperation. But your global broadcast has also alerted the hostile factions to their location. Tyler's equipment began detecting new signals. Spacecraft entering Earth's atmosphere from multiple directions. Some broadcasting the peaceful mathematical communications they had learned to recognize. Others transmitting signals that felt distinctly different and somehow threatening. Mr. Chen, Morrison said urgently, humanity's first contact is about to become humanity's first war. And we're about to find out whether the choice between peace and violence was ever really ours to make. The Mojave Desert contact site had been transformed into something resembling a small city overnight. Military units from 12 different nations had established a security perimeter. while international media crews broadcast live coverage of humanity's most significant moment to an audience of nearly 4 billion people. Marcus and Tyler stood in the designated contact zone, wearing the communication devices that would allow them to serve as translators between the arriving alien factions and human representatives. Around them, world leaders who had flown in through the night maintained a respectful distance, understanding that the Chen brothers had earned the right to facilitate first contact through their courage in exposing the truth. The peaceful alien craft descended first, its organic curves and soft luminescence immediately recognizable from Dr. Hartwell's preserved footage. As it settled gently onto the desert floor, Marcus felt the reconstruction blueprint device in his backpack begin to pulse with warm energy, responding to the proximity of its creators. 3 beings emerged from the craft, and Marcus was struck by how closely they matched Dr. Hartwell's descriptions from 70 years ago. Tall and slender, with large eyes that conveyed ancient wisdom and patient kindness, they moved with graceful deliberation toward the human delegation. The lead being approached Marcus directly, its elongated fingers touching the communication device at his chest. Immediately, symbols appeared in the air between them. Not the hostile projections they had feared, but gentle mathematical expressions of greeting and gratitude. "We are grateful," the translation appeared in Marcus's mind, "that humanity has found the courage to seek truth despite great personal risk. The Chen brothers have demonstrated the growth we have waited 70 years to witness." Tyler monitored the horizon through high-powered telescopes, tracking the approach of the second group of spacecraft. These vessels were different, angular, metallic, radiating an energy signature that made the alien communication devices emit warning pulses. "The others are arriving," Tyler announced, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd through the international communication network that had been established for the historic meeting. President Chen, no relation to the brothers, despite the shared surname, stepped forward as the designated spokesperson for Earth. "We welcome peaceful contact with all extraterrestrial civilizations, but we will defend ourselves against any threats to our planet or our people." The reconstruction blueprint device that Marcus carried began projecting its own holographic display, showing detailed plans for rebuilding human civilization using sustainable alien technology. The images were breathtaking: cities that produced no pollution, transportation systems that required no fossil fuels, medical facilities that could eliminate genetic diseases and extend human lifespan significantly. "This was our original gift," the peaceful alien communicated through the translation system. "Technology to help humanity avoid the environmental collapse that threatens your species. We offer it again, freely, with no conditions except peaceful cooperation." But the arrival of the hostile faction changed the atmosphere dramatically. 5 angular spacecraft landed in formation beyond the security perimeter, disgorging beings that shared basic anatomy with the peaceful visitors, but radiated an entirely different energy. Where the peaceful aliens moved with calm deliberation, these beings moved with predatory efficiency. Marcus felt the reconstruction blueprint responding to the hostile presence, its projections shifting to show defensive applications of the same technology. The aliens' gifts could create paradise or weapons of unimaginable power, depending on how humanity chose to use them. The hostile faction's leader approached the contact zone, its communication device projecting symbols that translated as territorial claims and demands for human submission. "This species has demonstrated violence and deception," the hostile message read. "They are unfit for technological advancement and must be placed under our guidance for the safety of the galaxy." The peaceful alien spokesperson responded immediately, its own projections challenging the hostile faction's authority. "Humanity has evolved beyond their original violence. The Chen brothers' sacrifice to reveal truth demonstrates their species' capacity for growth and moral courage." Marcus realized that humanity was witnessing not just first contact, but a debate about human nature being conducted by alien civilizations that had been watching Earth for centuries. The reconstruction blueprint in his hands held the key to which faction would prevail, technology that could elevate humanity to galactic citizenship or reduce them to managed dependence. The choice belongs to humanity. Both factions communicated simultaneously, their symbols overlapping in the air above the contact zone. Demonstrate your readiness for independence by choosing wisely how to use the gifts we offer. Tyler stepped forward, his military training allowing him to assess the tactical situation with clarity that cut through the cosmic significance of the moment. Marcus, look at the blueprint device. It's not just showing us building plans. It's asking us to choose which version of humanity we want to become. The holographic projections had evolved into two distinct pathways. One showed humanity rebuilding their civilization using alien technology independently, making their own decisions about how to grow and develop. The other showed humanity as a protected species, safe but dependent, their choices managed by more advanced beings who would prevent them from making dangerous mistakes. President Chen turned to address both alien factions directly. Humanity chooses independence. We'll make mistakes, but we'll learn from them. We want cooperation, not management. The reconstruction blueprint pulsed with approval, its projections solidifying around the independence pathway. The peaceful aliens expressed satisfaction through gentle harmonies that needed no translation, while the hostile faction transmitted what could only be described as frustrated disappointment. Then humanity will be given the opportunity to prove their worthiness of independence, both factions agreed. The technology will be shared, but the responsibility for its use belongs entirely to your species. Marcus understood that they had just negotiated humanity's entry into a larger galactic community as equals rather than subjects. But the real test would be what they did with that opportunity in the coming years. The welcome message crystal materialized above the contact site like a three-dimensional star, its faceted surface casting rainbow patterns across the assembled crowd as it slowly rotated in defiance of gravity. Marcus watched in amazement as the artifact activated itself, responding to humanity's choice of independence by revealing the true scope of what peaceful cooperation could achieve. This is not the first time we have offered friendship to your species, the crystal communicated through. Harmonics that resonated directly in every human mind present. 75 years ago, we came with hope for partnership. Today, we return with understanding of your capacity for growth. The message expanded beyond simple communication, filling the minds of everyone present with shared memories of the original alien mission to Earth. But these weren't the traumatic laboratory scenes they had witnessed through Dr. Hartwell's documentation. These were images of the aliens' homeworld, a planet that had once faced the same environmental and social challenges that currently threatened Earth. Tyler felt tears streaming down his face as he experienced the aliens' perspective. On their first arrival in 1947, they had been desperate refugees from their own dying world, carrying the knowledge of how to avoid the mistakes that had nearly destroyed their civilization. Earth had represented hope, a chance to prevent another species from suffering the same near extinction they had barely survived. We came not as conquerors, but as teachers, the crystal continued, its message reaching beyond the contact site to every human being on Earth through the global communication networks. Our own world had suffered through wars over resources, environmental collapse, and the kind of fear that leads civilizations to destroy themselves rather than accept help from others. The welcome message revealed that the alien visitors had actually been environmental refugees, the survivors of a planetary catastrophe that had reduced their population from billions to thousands. They had spent centuries traveling between worlds, searching for species that could learn from their mistakes and avoid similar devastation. Marcus realized that humanity's choice between independence and protection had been a test that many species had failed. The crystal showed him glimpses of other worlds where alien intervention had been accepted, creating dependent civilizations that had lost their drive for innovation and growth. These protected species had achieved safety, but had never developed the resilience needed for true galactic citizenship. Earth was chosen because your species demonstrates the curiosity and adaptability necessary for true partnership, the crystal explained. Even after our first contact ended in tragedy, we observed your continued efforts to explore space, to solve global problems, to reach beyond your planetary boundaries, despite the obstacles. The hostile alien faction remained silent during the crystal's message, but their presence served as a reminder that not all extraterrestrial civilizations supported peaceful cooperation. The welcome message acknowledged this reality directly, explaining that the galaxy contained both cooperative and predatory species, and that humanity's independence came with the responsibility of defending themselves and their allies. The technology we share will allow you to build defenses as well as cities, the crystal communicated. The choice of how to use our gifts will determine whether your species joins the community of peaceful civilizations or becomes another cautionary tale of potential wasted through violence. President Chen stepped forward to speak for humanity, his words being transmitted globally and recorded for history. We accept the responsibility that comes with independence. We understand that the technology you're sharing can be used for creation or destruction, and we choose creation. The welcome message. Crystal began projecting detailed technical specifications for the technologies that had been promised in the original 1947 treaty. Fusion power systems that could provide clean energy for centuries. Atmospheric processes that could reverse climate change within decades. Medical technologies that could eliminate most diseases and extend healthy human lifespan to several centuries. But the crystal also revealed something that changed everything Marcus thought he understood about the aliens' motivations. The beings weren't just trying to prevent humanity from repeating their own civilization's mistakes. They were hoping that humanity could succeed where they had failed, developing solutions to problems that still plagued their own society. We have achieved technological mastery, but lost much of our creative spirit, the crystal explained. Your species possesses imagination and emotional depth that we hope to learn from. True cooperation benefits both civilizations. Tyler understood that the relationship being offered was genuinely mutual. Humanity would gain advanced technology and protection from hostile alien factions, while the peaceful aliens would gain access to human creativity, art, and innovative thinking that could help rejuvenate their own ancient civilization. The welcome message concluded with an invitation that had been extended to no other species in galactic history. Full partnership in a cooperative council that would guide peaceful exploration and development throughout the galaxy. Humanity was being offered not just membership in galactic civilization, but leadership roles in shaping its future. Your species' journey from first contact failure to peaceful cooperation demonstrates the growth we hope to inspire in other worlds. The crystal communicated as it began to fade. The Chen brothers' courage in revealing truth shows that individual choices can transform entire civilizations, as the welcome message crystal dissolved into sparks of light that settled gently onto the desert floor. Marcus and Tyler understood that their desperate search for quick money in a storage auction had led to humanity's transformation from isolated planetary species to galactic partners. The real work of building that partnership was just beginning, but for the first time in human history, the future held unlimited possibilities for growth beyond Earth. 3 months after first contact, Marcus stood in the newly constructed integration center in Geneva, watching human and alien engineers work side by side on projects that would have been pure science fiction just a year earlier. The cultural exchange matrix hummed quietly on the conference table before him, its crystalline surface displaying real-time data about the complex process of blending two radically different civilizations. The device showed concerning statistics. While the general population had embraced the possibility of clean energy and advanced medicine, the practical implementation of alien technology was proving far more challenging than anyone had anticipated. Power grids designed for fossil fuels couldn't easily accommodate fusion reactors that produced 10 times more energy than they could distribute. Medical systems trained to treat symptoms rather than causes struggled to adapt to alien healing technologies that addressed genetic problems at their source. Tyler worked with a mixed team of human military advisors and alien security specialists, developing protocols for defending Earth against the hostile factions that remained a constant threat. The cultural exchange matrix registered his team's frustration as they tried to reconcile human strategic thinking with alien defensive technologies that operated on principles human science barely understood. The problem isn't the technology, Dr. Sarah Martinez explained to the assembled integration committee, which included representatives from every major nation on Earth, as well as 3 alien advisors. The problem is that our entire economic system is based on scarcity, and alien technology eliminates scarcity. When fusion power makes energy essentially free, what happens to the oil industry? When medical scanners can cure cancer in hours, what happens to pharmaceutical companies? Marcus consulted the cultural exchange matrix, which had been designed to monitor and analyze the social challenges of technological integration. The device painted a troubling picture of human resistance to changes that would benefit humanity overall but threaten established power structures. The matrix showed that while ordinary citizens overwhelmingly supported alien cooperation, corporations and governments dependent on resource-based economies were actively sabotaging integration efforts. Oil companies were funding disinformation campaigns against fusion technology. Pharmaceutical corporations were lobbying against the introduction of alien medical devices. Military contractors were arguing that Earth needed conventional weapons rather than alien defensive systems. We're seeing the same patterns that prevented successful integration in other civilizations, reported Kethra, one of the alien advisors. The being's communication through the matrix carried undertones of disappointment that needed no translation. Short-term thinking and resistance to change consistently override long-term benefits. Tyler had documented dozens of incidents where integration projects had been delayed or cancelled due to political pressure. A fusion power plant in Germany had been shut down after energy companies claimed it would destabilize the electrical grid. Medical trials of alien healing devices had been suspended in the United States after pharmaceutical lobbying convinced Congress that the technology needed decades of additional testing. The cultural exchange matrix revealed that similar obstacles had prevented successful alien integration on 17 other worlds, leading to the eventual withdrawal of alien assistance and the collapse of those civilizations within decades. The device displayed a timeline, showing how quickly cooperative relationships could deteriorate when economic interests overrode scientific progress. We're repeating the same mistakes that destroyed first contact. 70 years ago, Marcus realized, studying the matrix data, fear and greed are winning over hope and cooperation. But the matrix also showed promising developments that gave both brothers hope for eventual success. In countries with less entrenched corporate power, alien technology integration was proceeding smoothly. Small African nations were implementing fusion power systems that could provide electricity to their entire populations for the first time. Island nations threatened by climate change were using atmospheric processes to reverse environmental damage and create sustainable ecosystems. The most encouraging data came from educational institutions, where young people were adapting to alien concepts with remarkable ease. Universities that had established alien studies programs were producing students who could think in both human and alien paradigms, creating the foundation for a truly integrated civilization. Tyler's security team had also made significant progress in developing hybrid defense systems that combined human tactical thinking with alien technology. The cultural exchange matrix showed that these collaborative efforts were producing innovations that neither species could have achieved independently. Maybe that's the real test, Tyler suggested during one of their planning sessions. Not whether we can integrate alien technology perfectly, but whether we can evolve beyond the thinking that prevents integration. Marcus watched the matrix display shift to show prediction models for successful integration. The scenarios that led to positive outcomes all required humanity to fundamentally restructure economic and political systems around cooperation rather than competition. Abundance rather than scarcity. These aliens didn't just give us technology, Marcus realized. They gave us a mirror that shows us everything wrong with how we organize our society. The question is whether we're brave enough to change. The cultural exchange matrix pulsed with what Marcus had learned to recognize as alien approval. The device wasn't just monitoring integration. It was teaching humanity to see themselves from a galactic perspective, understanding how their choices would determine not just their own future, but their worthiness for continued alien partnership. The integration challenges were enormous, but for the first time in human history, the tools and knowledge existed to solve them. Whether humanity chose to use those tools would determine if the Chen brothers' discovery led to transformation or simply to another missed opportunity for growth. The shadow government archives materialized from their hidden location beneath the integration center when Marcus activated the security protocol that Tyler had discovered during his infiltration of Dr. Morrison's remaining facilities. The holographic files filled the room with evidence of a conspiracy far more extensive than either brother had imagined possible. "Look at this," Tyler said, his voice tight with anger as he scrolled through financial records that showed payments to anti-integration protesters, bribes to government officials, and funding for media campaigns designed to create fear about alien cooperation. Morrison's organization didn't just disappear after first contact. They went underground and recruited new allies. The archives revealed that the Shadow Network had evolved beyond simple alien contact suppression into a broader organization dedicated to maintaining human civilization's dependence on scarcity-based economics. Oil companies, pharmaceutical corporations, weapons manufacturers, and financial institutions had joined forces with the remnants of Project Nightfall to prevent alien technology from disrupting their profit models. Marcus found correspondence between Shadow Network leaders that made his blood run cold. They weren't just resisting alien integration, they were actively planning to sabotage the cooperation agreements and frame the aliens for terrorist attacks that would justify military action against the peaceful visitors. Operation Broken Trust, Marcus read from a classified document dated just 2 weeks ago. Phase 1, industrial accidents at fusion power facilities to demonstrate the dangers of alien technology. Phase 2, biological attacks blamed on alien medical experiments. Phase 3, military strike against alien facilities justified as national security response. Tyler had discovered the network's most recent recruitment efforts, which included approaching military officers, intelligence agents, and corporate executives with classified briefings about supposed alien threats. The Shadow organization was spreading disinformation about hostile alien infiltration and claiming that the peaceful cooperation was actually a subtle invasion designed to weaken human resistance. The archives contained audio recordings of Dr. Morrison himself, now operating from a hidden facility in South America, coordinating with network leaders around the world. His voice carried the same authoritative tone that had once commanded Project Nightfall, but his message had evolved to match contemporary fears. Humanity has survived for millennia through competition and conflict, Morrison's voice echoed through the archive playback system. These aliens want to eliminate those survival instincts, making us dependent and weak. They call it cooperation, but it's really submission disguised as partnership. But the most disturbing revelation in the archives was evidence that the Shadow Network had made contact with the hostile alien faction, negotiating a secret agreement that would allow certain human elites to maintain power in exchange for helping to subjugate the rest of humanity. Marcus found video footage of meetings between Shadow Network leaders and representatives of the hostile aliens, where humans argued that their species needed firm guidance rather than independence. The hostile aliens had agreed to provide advanced technology exclusively to network members while helping them maintain control over populations that would be told the cooperation had failed. They're planning to stage a false flag operation, Tyler realized, studying tactical documents that outlined attacks on integration facilities designed to look like alien aggression. If they succeed, it will justify breaking off cooperation with the peaceful faction and accepting protection from the hostile aliens instead. The archives also revealed the network's penetration of government agencies, media organizations, and even some alien cooperation projects. Shadow operatives had been placed in positions where they could sabotage integration efforts while appearing to support them, creating a constant stream of failures that could be blamed on alien inadequacy or deception. Tyler discovered that several recent integration failures hadn't been due to technical difficulties or cultural resistance. They had been deliberately sabotaged by network agents who had manipulated safety systems, corrupted data, and even endangered human lives to create evidence that alien cooperation was dangerous. The medical scanner incident in Tokyo wasn't an accident, Tyler said, pulling up classified reports about a healing device that had allegedly malfunctioned and injured several patients. Network agents modified the device to cause precisely the kind of injuries that would generate maximum media coverage and public fear. Marcus found the network's media strategy, which included pre-written news stories, social media campaigns, and documentary scripts designed to be released immediately after staged incidents. The Shadow organization had created an entire alternate narrative about alien cooperation that could be deployed instantly to override factual reporting. But perhaps most shocking was the discovery that some of the supposed resistance wasn't coming from fear or misunderstanding. It was being deliberately orchestrated by people who understood exactly how beneficial alien cooperation could be and were determined to prevent it for their own gain. They know that fusion power could end energy poverty worldwide, Marcus said, reading through internal strategy documents. They know that alien medicine could eliminate most diseases. They know that cooperation could create abundance for everyone. And they're fighting against it because abundance would eliminate their power over others. Tyler found evidence that the network was planning to activate Operation Broken Trust within days, coordinating simultaneous attacks on integration facilities. In 12 countries, while broadcasting their pre-prepared propaganda about alien betrayal and the need for military response. "We have to warn the Integration Council," Tyler said, but Marcus was already shaking his head. "We have to do more than warn them," Marcus replied, studying the complete organizational chart of the Shadow Network. "We have to expose this conspiracy so completely that they can't implement their plan even if they eliminate us." The Shadow government archives contained everything they needed to destroy the network permanently: financial records, communication logs, video evidence, and most importantly, the real identities of every person involved in the conspiracy to sabotage humanity's best chance for peaceful evolution. The question was, whether they could expose the truth before the network succeeded in destroying everything they had worked to build. The galactic communication array rose from the Nevada desert like a crystalline mountain, its faceted surfaces capturing and redirecting signals from across the galaxy to create Earth's first connection to the broader community of peaceful civilizations. Marcus stood at the control interface, watching as humanity received its first messages from dozens of worlds that had successfully integrated alien cooperation into their development. Tyler worked alongside alien technicians to calibrate the array's defensive capabilities, understanding that opening communication with galactic civilization also made Earth visible to hostile factions that had previously ignored their isolated planet. The array would serve dual purposes: gateway to knowledge and shield against threats. "First transmission incoming," announced Dr. Sarah Martinez, who had become Earth's primary liaison for interstellar communication. "It's from the Kepler 442 system, Civilization Designation Than Collective." The array translated the incoming message into holographic symbols that filled the air above the control platform. Marcus watched in amazement as an entirely alien perspective on cooperation and technological development unfolded before the assembled human and alien observers. The Than Collective had achieved successful integration with their alien visitors over 3 centuries ago, transforming their world from a pollution-choked industrial planet into a paradise of sustainable cities and restored ecosystems. Their message contained detailed blueprints for social structures that balanced individual freedom with collective responsibility, economic systems that eliminated poverty without stifling innovation, and educational approaches that prepared young beings for life in a diverse galactic community. "They're sharing everything," Marcus realized as technical specifications for their technologies streamed through the array. No patents, no trade secrets, no competitive advantages held back. Complete openness. Tyler monitored the defensive aspects of the communication, noting how the array automatically filtered out potentially harmful signals while allowing beneficial information to pass through freely. The system had been designed by cooperative civilizations to ensure that knowledge sharing couldn't be weaponized by hostile factions. A second transmission arrived from the Proxima Centauri system, where a civilization called the Vor Unity had actually been contacted by the same peaceful alien faction that had first visited Earth. Their message contained archives of their own integration process, including documentation of mistakes they had made and lessons they had learned over 2 centuries of cooperation. "Look at this," Tyler said, studying the Vor Unity's military integration records. "They went through the same resistance from established power structures that we're experiencing, but they found ways to transition gradually, retraining petroleum engineers to become fusion technicians, converting weapons manufacturers into space exploration equipment producers." The Galactic Communication Array revealed that Earth was joining a network of over 200 worlds that had achieved peaceful cooperation with alien civilizations. Each world had faced similar challenges during integration, but all had eventually succeeded in creating societies based on abundance rather than scarcity, cooperation rather than competition. Marcus discovered that the network operated as a true democracy, with decisions about galactic exploration and development made through consensus among all member civilizations. Earth's voice would carry equal weight with species that had been exploring space for millennia, reflecting the aliens' genuine belief in the value of diverse perspectives. "We're not joining an empire," Marcus announced to the assembled delegation of world leaders who had come to witness humanity's first galactic communications. "We're joining a community where every civilization has an equal voice in shaping the future," The most exciting transmission came from a world in the Vega system, where a young civilization similar to Earth had recently achieved interstellar travel using technologies developed through alien cooperation. Their message contained an invitation for human observers to visit their world and witness firsthand how integration had transformed their society. Tyler coordinated with alien security specialists to evaluate the invitation, understanding that interstellar travel would expose humanity to new opportunities and new dangers. The hostile alien factions that had threatened Earth were active throughout the galaxy, and human travelers would need protection that Earth couldn't yet provide independently. The peaceful faction has been preparing for this moment for 70 years. Gethra explained through the communication array's translation system. They have established safe travel, corridors and defensive protocols that will allow human exploration while maintaining security. The array began receiving technical specifications for interstellar travel systems that humans could build using alien technology and human engineering innovations. The designs required cooperation between species, but would result in spacecraft that belonged to humanity rather than being dependent on alien transportation. Marcus realized that the Chen brothers were about to become Earth's first galactic ambassadors, responsible for representing humanity's interests in a community of civilizations that spanned hundreds of star systems. The journey from desperate storage auction bidders to interstellar diplomats seemed impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. The galaxy has been waiting for humanity to join them, Tyler said, studying navigation charts that showed safe routes to dozens of worlds eager to meet Earth's representatives. They've been saving a place for us in their councils, hoping we would eventually overcome our fear and violence. The Galactic Communication Array had revealed humanity's true destiny, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equal partners in a peaceful civilization that valued diversity, creativity, and the unique perspectives that each species brought to galactic development. The storage cabin that had started their journey seemed like a lifetime ago, but Marcus understood that their discovery had been the first step in humanity's evolution, from isolated planetary species to active participants in galactic civilization. Marcus held the memory preservation device carefully as he prepared to record what might be the most important testimony in human history. The crystalline artifact, no larger than a smartphone but infinitely more sophisticated, would capture not just his words, but his emotions, thoughts, and the complete sensory experience of humanity's transformation from isolation to galactic citizenship. This is Marcus Chen, recording on December 15th, 2 years after my brother Tyler and I discovered Project Nightfall documents in a storage cabin purchased for $300, he began, speaking into the device while Tyler operated the recording equipment that would preserve their story for future generations. The memory preservation device had been a gift from the galactic community, designed to ensure that the experiences of first contact civilizations wouldn't be lost to time. Unlike human recording technology, it captured the full spectrum of human consciousness, not just what happened, but how it felt to live through the most significant period in human history. Tyler had spent the morning organizing the documents, artifacts, and evidence that would accompany Marcus's testimony. The complete archive now filled several rooms in the International Integration Center, but the memory device would preserve the human experience of discovery in ways that no written record could match. I want to start with something people might not understand unless they lived through it, Marcus continued, feeling the device respond to his emotional state as he recalled their desperate financial situation 2 years earlier. Tyler and I weren't heroes or visionaries when this began. We were two brothers who couldn't make rent, hoping to find something valuable in other people's forgotten belongings. The device captured his wonder as he described their first encounter with the alien artifacts. The growing realization that they had stumbled onto the most significant cover-up in human history, and the terrifying moment when they realized they were being hunted by forces that had successfully hidden the truth for 70 years. Tyler added his own perspective, speaking into a second memory device that would preserve the military and tactical aspects of their journey. The hardest part wasn't the danger or the surveillance, he said. It was understanding that we had the power to change everything, and that with that power came the responsibility to act even when we were terrified. Marcus paused the recording to show the device photographs of Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, whose courage and sacrifice had made their discovery possible. Dr. Hartwell died, believing that humanity would eventually be ready to face the truth about first contact. She preserved evidence for 70 years, waiting for people like us to find it and have the courage to share it with the world. The memory preservation device had been documenting the global transformation that followed their revelations. Crime rates had plummeted as fusion energy eliminated energy poverty, and alien medical technology eliminated most physical and mental illnesses. Environmental restoration projects using alien atmospheric processes were reversing climate change faster than anyone had thought possible. But perhaps most remarkably, human creativity and innovation had flourished in ways that surprised even the aliens. Art, music, literature, and scientific research were experiencing a renaissance as humanity's basic survival needs were met, and people were free to pursue their passions without fear of poverty or disease. The aliens told us that our species possesses imagination and emotional depth that most galactic civilizations have lost, Marcus recorded. But I think what they really saw was our capacity for hope, even in desperate circumstances. Tyler and I never would have had the courage to expose the truth if we hadn't hoped that humanity deserved better than lies and cover-ups. Tyler's recording focused on the practical challenges of integration and the ongoing threats from hostile factions, but also on the extraordinary cooperation that had emerged between human and alien security forces. Working with beings who think on timescales of centuries has taught me patience, he said. But they've learned from us too. Sometimes quick decisions and emotional responses are exactly what a situation requires. The memory device captured Marcus's reflection on their family relationships, which had been transformed by their journey from obscurity to global significance. Their parents, initially terrified by their son's involvement in alien contact, had become proud advocates for peaceful cooperation. Extended family members who had once considered the brothers' failures now sought their advice on adapting to a world where traditional career paths no longer applied. Success isn't measured the same way anymore, Marcus observed. When basic needs are guaranteed and most diseases are curable, people can focus on contribution rather than accumulation. The question isn't how much money you can make, but how much good you can do. The device had been recording for hours when Marcus realized that their story was really about the power of ordinary people to change the world when they find the courage to act on their convictions. The storage cabin had contained evidence, but the real discovery had been within themselves, the strength to risk everything for truth. If someone finds this recording centuries from now, I want them to understand that heroes aren't special people, Marcus concluded. They're ordinary people who make extraordinary choices when circumstances demand it. Tyler and I were just desperate enough to take risks that changed everything. The memory preservation device sealed their testimony in crystalline matrices that would survive for millennia, ensuring that humanity's transition to galactic citizenship would be remembered not as the work of governments or institutions, but as the courage of two brothers who chose hope over fear. The Foundation Charter gleamed with official seals from every nation on Earth as Marcus signed the document that would establish the Chen Foundation for Galactic Relations as humanity's permanent institution for peaceful contact and cooperation. Tyler watched from across the conference table as Representatives from 57 countries added their signatures to the agreement that would ensure their work continued long after they were gone. The Chen Foundation will serve as Earth's primary liaison with galactic civilization, President Chen announced to the assembled delegates, reading from the Charter's opening paragraph. Its mission is to facilitate peaceful cooperation, prevent the mistakes that led to first contact failure, and ensure that humanity maintains its commitment to independence through partnership rather than dependence. The Foundation Charter contained provisions that neither brother had initially requested, but that the international community had insisted upon. Marcus and Tyler would serve as lifetime directors, but operational control would rest with a council of representatives from human governments, scientific institutions, and most importantly, ordinary citizens chosen by lottery to ensure that the Foundation remained accountable to all humanity rather than just its leadership. Tyler had spent months working with constitutional scholars and alien advisors to design governance structures that would prevent the Foundation from becoming another secretive organization like Project Nightfall. Every decision would be made transparently, every document would be publicly available, and every citizen of Earth would have access to the same information about galactic relations that government officials received. Transparency isn't just morally right, Tyler explained to the delegates as he signed the charter. It's practically necessary. The shadow network succeeded for 70 years because ordinary people didn't know what was being done in their name. If humanity is going to maintain peaceful cooperation, everyone needs to understand what that cooperation involves. The Foundation Charter established training programs for the next generation of galactic liaisons, recognizing that Marcus and Tyler's unique experience could be replicated through education rather than chance discovery. Universities around the world were establishing galactic relations programs that would prepare students to serve as translators, negotiators, and cultural bridges between human and alien civilizations. Marcus found himself particularly proud of the Foundation's research mandate, which required the organization to continuously study the failures and successes of other civilizations' integration experiences. The Charter committed humanity to learning from the mistakes of worlds that had achieved cooperation, only to lose it through complacency or internal conflict. We're not just preserving what we've accomplished, Marcus told the Charter signing ceremony. We're committing to continued growth and improvement. The galactic community has shown us that cooperation is an ongoing process, not a destination. The Foundation would also serve as humanity's early warning system against the shadow network and similar organizations that might emerge in the future. The Charter established monitoring protocols for detecting attempts to sabotage cooperation, along with rapid response procedures for addressing threats. Before they could undermine galactic relations, Tyler had insisted on provisions that would allow the Foundation to maintain defensive capabilities without becoming militaristic. Working with alien security specialists, the organization would develop protection systems that could defend Earth against hostile factions while maintaining the peaceful character that had earned humanity acceptance into galactic civilization, defense through cooperation rather than isolation. Tyler explained to military representatives who had initially worried about the Foundation's security role. We protect Earth by strengthening our alliances with peaceful civilizations, not by building walls against the galaxy. The Charter contained detailed protocols for expanding human participation in galactic civilization, including procedures for establishing colonies on other worlds, participating in interstellar exploration missions, and contributing to galactic research projects. But all expansion would be voluntary and gradual, ensuring that humanity's homeworld remained secure and self-sufficient. Marcus had lobbied successfully for educational provisions that would ensure every human child learned about galactic civilization as a normal part of their schooling. The Foundation would develop curricula that taught cooperation skills, galactic history, and the scientific principles behind alien technologies that were transforming human society. Children who grow up understanding galactic citizenship will build better cooperation than adults who have to unlearn 70 years of isolation. Marcus argued during the charter negotiations, education is our best guarantee that future generations won't repeat the mistakes that led to first contact. Failure. The Foundation Charter also established cultural exchange programs that would allow humans to visit other worlds and alien representatives to experience Earth's diverse civilizations. These programs would prevent the kind of misunderstanding and fear that had characterized first contact in 1947. But perhaps most importantly, the Charter required the Foundation to continuously remind humanity of their unique perspective and contributions to galactic civilization. Rather than trying to become more like other species, humans would be encouraged to develop their distinctly human approaches to problem-solving, creativity, and cooperation. The galaxy doesn't need another civilization that thinks like everyone else, Tyler observed, as the charter signing concluded. They need humanity to remain human while learning to cooperate peacefully with beings who think very differently. As the last signature was added to the Foundation Charter, Marcus understood that they had created something unprecedented in galactic history, a permanent institution designed to maintain peaceful cooperation while preserving the independence and diversity that made each civilization valuable to the galactic community. The Infinity Key materialized in Marcus's hands as he stood in the transformed storage facility where their journey had begun 5 years earlier. What had once been a collection of abandoned units had become a monument to the power of ordinary people to change the world. Its walls lined with exhibits documenting humanity's transformation from isolated planet to galactic citizen. Tyler walked beside him through the memorial corridors, past displays showing the original military chest, Dr. Hartwell's preserved journals, and holographic recreations of their first encounters with alien technology. School children from around the world visited daily to learn about the moment when two desperate brothers had opened a door that changed everything. "Look at this," Tyler said, stopping before a display case containing the original auction receipt for $300. "Someone preserved our receipt. Future historians will know exactly how much we paid to discover the truth about first contact." The Infinity Key pulsed with warm energy as Marcus held it, responding to the presence of its creators, who had returned to Earth specifically to witness humanity's graduation to full galactic citizenship. The artifact contained protocols for unlocking humanity's complete potential within galactic civilization technologies and opportunities that had been held in reserve until Earth proved its readiness for true partnership. Around them, the memorial facility buzzed with activity as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to celebrate humanity's 5th anniversary of peaceful cooperation. Beings from dozens of worlds mingled with human visitors, their communication devices translating conversations about art, science, philosophy, and the shared challenges of building sustainable civilizations. Marcus found himself drawn to the exhibit featuring Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, whose portrait now held a place of honor among history's greatest heroes. Children who had never known a world without alien cooperation studied her story with the same reverence earlier generations had reserved for explorers and inventors. "She would be amazed to see this," Marcus said, reading from the memorial plaque that described Dr. Hartwell's sacrifice and vision. "A world where human children learn alien mathematics as naturally as they learn their own languages, where diseases that killed millions are eliminated by technology she helped preserve." The Infinity Key revealed its secrets gradually as Marcus concentrated on its crystalline surface. Humanity had passed every test of readiness for advanced galactic citizenship. They had chosen cooperation over conquest, independence over dependence, transparency over secrecy. The key would unlock access to technologies that could reshape matter at the atomic level, communication systems that operated across galactic distances instantaneously, and exploration capabilities that would allow humans to journey to the edge of the known. Universe. Tyler reviewed security reports showing the complete dismantling of the shadow network that had once threatened galactic cooperation. The final holdouts had been captured 6 months earlier, their hidden facilities converted into research centers where former weapons scientists now worked on peaceful exploration technologies. Dr. Morrison died in custody last week, Tyler reported quietly. Natural causes according to the medical examiners. Even the hostile alien factions have withdrawn from this sector, apparently deciding that humanity's cooperation with peaceful civilizations makes Earth too well defended to attack. The Infinity Key projected holographic displays showing humanity's expanding role in galactic civilization. Human artists were creating works that inspired beings across hundreds of worlds. Human scientists were contributing innovations that solved problems that had puzzled galactic researchers for centuries. Human diplomats were mediating conflicts between species with communication difficulties that humans' emotional intelligence helped resolve. But perhaps most remarkably, the key revealed that humanity's approach to cooperation was being studied and adopted by other civilizations as a model for maintaining diversity within unity. Instead of becoming more like other species, humans had influenced galactic civilization to become more accepting of individual differences and cultural variations. Marcus found exhibits documenting the personal transformations that had occurred since first contact. His own family had evolved from working-class struggles to meaningful contribution in a world where everyone's basic needs were guaranteed. Tyler had married Dr. Sarah Martinez, their partnership reflecting the broader cooperation between human and alien perspectives that characterized the new world. The children don't remember what it was like before, Tyler observed, watching a group of students interact naturally with their alien teachers. For them, galactic citizenship is normal. They can't imagine a world where humans were isolated and afraid of contact with other civilizations. The Infinity Key's final revelation showed the future pathways that lay open to humanity. Participation in galactic exploration missions that would map previously unknown regions of space. Contribution to research projects that could solve the fundamental mysteries of existence. And leadership roles in expanding the cooperative civilization to species that had not yet achieved peaceful contact. Marcus understood that their story had come full circle. The storage cabin that had represented desperate hope for quick money had led to genuine wealth beyond measure, not financial riches, but the wealth of knowledge, cooperation, and unlimited potential for growth. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't bought that storage unit, Marcus said as they concluded their visit to the memorial. Someone else would have found it eventually, Tyler replied, activating the Infinity Key one final time to signal humanity's acceptance of full galactic citizenship. Dr. Hartwell made sure the truth would survive until people were ready to hear it. We were just lucky enough to be the ones who found it first. As they left the memorial facility, Marcus carried the Infinity Key that would unlock humanity's unlimited future among the stars. Understanding that their greatest discovery had been the courage to choose hope over fear when the universe offered them both.